coming in and absolutely dominating at any respective esports stage. As we get into our draft for game number 1, Elsu is going to be making it through. We're starting to see this, the Raz and the Valheim getting a little bit higher priority here. Look at how fast these picks are already going through. Ignis, Richter, get him out of here.
You don't let Star run Rams, so that's an obvious ban. Also, Valheim is very, very good into this specific matchup, and it means that you're going to get Elsu. The trade for that is you let Lindis through to J-Team, which may hurt them more than getting Elsu befits Alpha Red, but they feel it's very strong. They also are prioritizing getting first one in their jungle an advantage because he's a star on that team. That's why that Cricknack comes out so quick.
Neil's going to have his work cut out for him on that Lindis, but going up against the Cricknack. Definitely going to be a challenge. All going to be about that matchup right there, and which one will be able to assassinate the other. If Cricknack can go in and kill the Lindis, it's going to be a good spot for Alpha Red. However, if J-Team can sustain, keep him alive in these fights, going to be something to contend with.
First one is actually, these are two of the best junglers in the world.
Yes.
We've seen Neil in play already. First one had a 7.34 KDA in their game versus ALG, which I think is a good watermark. This is what they'll do to any team that comes too close, and I think this should be one of the best head-to-head matchups in the jungle we've seen yet.
We'll be keeping an eye on it for sure, but we have to look towards the side lanes as well. Malik already being picked up here for Alpha Red, Omen being denied, but a lot of mages also finding their way on the ban table here, as Alistair and Natalia are going to be removed. I love this Natalia ban, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're making sure that NT can't get Natalia, because he definitely showed his strength on it during the groups, and I'm sure they have research going back further than that. They're also getting rid of Alistair because it's another backline static mage, and the composition that Alpha Red are building really looks to enable a backline. You can see, though they've made an adjustment, instead of going full backline, they're actually now having a little bit of dive and a little bit extra damage. So with the Annette, they're going to be able to reposition anyone trying to pressure their backline, and the Flash will do extraordinarily well as well, because he can get onto that Lindis. So it's now a double dive game. Which team can shut down the opposing team's Lindis or Elsu?
I love this. So each one has that squishy person to the back they have to defend, but at the support's jobs, they're going to have to work it out for them here. The Hurricane Walls are going to have to be on point. The Nature's Realms are going to have to be on point. But here's the thing, is that each support has this big mass AoE ability that's going to be creating space in these fights. How the teams play around that, I think, is going to be a huge dictator of who wins these team fights.
Well, they also both have a side lane that will help them. You have the Crest coming through in the side lane for J-Team, and you will have the Mallet coming through in the side lane for Alpha Red. So there's an extra defensive utility option for both teams, and on Alpha Red, that's going to be doubly important because their Malik is really their only tank.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be the strong frontliner there for the squad. But we've seen Malix just survive, just sustain through some times where they have absolutely no right to. So we'll keep an eye on that as we're about to get into our very first game here, match number 6 here at the AIC group stages. Our second sort of group stage, you could say here.
Stage 2 of the AIC groups, live from Thailand.
Live from Thailand, yes. Also, I have to say, all this augmented reality stuff is absolutely like the coolest stuff I've ever seen. Just for the record.
They do it all regular season for the RPL, and they do like these big panning. They do the same like cityscape stuff they have now. Obviously, it's changed for the AIC, but they do these big panning shots over the augmented reality cityscape with giant Raz standing above it. It is sick. I agree.
Well, let's see if one of these teams can tower over their opponents here in game number 1 and get off to a dominant lead. Segways are the best.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with you today.
I know.
Something about the lack of sleep.
I came out of the gates firing.
Into it.
Rolled out of bed and into the puns. That's how we made this work today.
Ben is already playing really aggressive here, and I'm not really sure about that, but Alpha Red don't have the early game damage to punish him. But you can see that already vision is very important for JT, because they want to be able, especially using Benny, who's a very aggressive, one of my favorite supports to watch, he's going to be constantly trying to ensure that they know where the squishies on Alpha Red are, because they need to fight an Elsu in vision control, and that is difficult.
Well, because they're already at a huge disadvantage because of the nature of these sentries, and it's going to allow the support from KSSA to really just play a lot more aggressive, a lot less defensive. But speaking of aggression, up in the top lane, Taos is under a lot of threat as Benny is coming in. One more auto is going to make it happen, and that's going to be first blood.
Benny able to sweep through, and that's a major opening pick. How do you fight the Elsu? Well, you shut him down early. NC will look for revenge.
Going in, trying to find that there. Not able to do so. Great Aquatic Shield there from Wins, able to keep his teammate alive. Level 4 has now been reached for Cricknack. And this, of course, as we know, is when things start to get scary as you like to drop the drones.
Yeah, so there's a two-phase plan. It's like a rocket ship launching for Alpha Red. Phase 1, the boosters, if you will, is first one. The early game Cricknack is going to be scouting. Then, once we get towards the mid-late game, those rocket boosters are going to fall off, and the actual shuttle is Taos. So Taos needs to be enabled.
Yes, watch for that here as we have the first Abyssal Dragon being picked up now for Alpha Red going in, and now the shotgun to Benny as well. First one in the back trying to chase us down. This fight has split insanely as Taos is still throwing in these snipes. Somehow left alive, uncontested in the back of that fight, and able to do so much work throughout all of that. NT, though, getting hit by that blinding light, but able to pick up the kill onto Neo as the rest of Alpha Red is invading here onto the jungle and brushing out this blue as well.
So you see Alpha Red don't yet have their entire team online. Obviously, Towns isn't doing... You might be like, that was a lot of damage. That wasn't a lot of damage for Elsu. That's early game damage for Elsu. So he's not yet really that useful in team fights or at wave clear. So instead, they're relying on first one to carry their early team fights, and so far he is. Now the focus needs to be make sure Taos gets into the mid-late game and starts to shop and do about half people's HP with every shot.
Well, he's going to be reaching that point fairly soon here as well. We have to talk about late game flash too. You cannot undervalue that. The fact that there's so much natural synergy there with the ult and the snipe, bringing everybody together with that cyclone and just having everybody line up for those snipes, not to mention the back of these wind cuffs too. You're just setting it up right now for Taos.
Yeah. They have a ton of AoE group tools and a ton of AoE punish tools, and that's really fun synergistically.
So we'll see if they're able to make something happen with that. Oh, nice bait there onto the Nature's Realm from first one. That was absolutely huge. That's 2 ults baited down here in the Dragon Lane.
Yeah, and both of the major support ultimates as well. I think they'll be up in time, but it is definitely going to be a scaring next few moments. This wave should get pushed against the tower.
I love how Wins is like making Taos pick. Oh, do you want to shoot the minion wave or do you want to shoot me? I love that decision making there from him, his positioning in this lane matchup. It's the small things like that that really just elevate these players to that status of, oh my, they're some of the best in the world.
First one, playing near Taos as well as kind of his bodyguard during the early game. I really liked that group. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense on paper, but remember that the burst mobility of Elsu is some of the best on any character, so he doesn't necessarily need an extra disengage tool, a tank to take damage. He needs someone to be enough of a threat that you're not comfortable taking a long, drawn-out chase battle against him.
That's going to be absolutely key here, but I have to say, speaking of long drawn-out battles, that Abyssal Dragon stayed alive for so long. Actually, to get leashed in the midst of all of that, that was really just KSSA walking into the midst of all the foes and being like, hi, I'm Nanette, nice to meet you. I'm just going to totally reset this fight. Easy peasy, thank you so much. And really, I feel like Benny, we talked about the Ebenieth yesterday on day 1, but it's been a lot more lackluster so far here in day 2. I feel like these Nature's Realms have been baited out every single time.
Well, there's something to be said for the quality of the competition they're playing against. Sorry,
Ouch.
ALG.
Ouch.
Because there's a lot of high mobility characters being used to bait out these Nature's Realms. Consistently, people are getting close and then ditching them. And the right thing to do in a situation where a squishy steps too close to you as a Ybeneth is to go ahead and ult and find punish.
Well, Yuzon is doing a good job of punishing this lane right here, dodging up the shock from Shadow as well. and giving J-Team the ability to move on into this Abyssal Dragon, pulling the rest of the team back. Alpha Red have identified the fact that, look, we probably can't contest this too much. I might have spoken too soon, though, but no, it is actually Taos just getting pushed right on back. The Hurricane Wall is there, nicely done. They're all lining up right now. Benny might have gone too far.
Yeah, Benny has gotten too far. He'll be scared back. Taos can't quite land the snipe. In the meantime, Alpha Red tried to gain pressure onto the top tower and were unable to do so, but they do have wave clear.
NT? NT, you got? He almost got that kill. That would have been absolutely insane. That was, like, trying to stick around. Alpha Red there sniped that out. That was a really, really nice metamorphosis to stop Taos from actually picking up and sniping that Abyssal Dragon. And I mean snipe in the quite literal sense of the word. And now Wins is in a terrible position. He's actually just going to get picked up.
Whew. Nicely done. NT with the Cyclone to make sure no escape is possible. The bot lane tower will fall, and they can put so many... Let's talk about rotations again. The reason that you can have 3 members of the team down in the bot lane is because first one just cut wave twice up top. This is the first wave that got past the tower in 2 cycles in the top lane, and Alpha Red are rotating back an extra player to make sure that it's managed.
This is actually really good decision-making here from them. And look at the way they're able to keep the Spirit Sentinel in range. They're making sure they're able to get that additional buff going on into this as well. Really solid. Actually, Alpha Red has been impressing me so much right now. They're ahead 2k gold and just in a really, really good position overall. And as you said, it's all about how they thought out this draft. They have early game, they have mid game, they have late game. Every single person has a role, and they've identified that role. First one's like, look, I'm the star right now. I need to be the priority. I'm making this work. But Taos and NT, they have identified that, look, we're going to be the ones to ramp up online in the late game. Their synergy is already starting to show.
And you can see that by how the build looks from Taos. He's not prioritizing early damage. He actually went for the flashy boots first so that he can just spam snipes early game, and he'll worry about making them hurt later.
Well, he missed one key snipe there onto that Superman, which would have been the critical kill, allowing J-Team to actually secure that kill and walk away scot-free.
Not sure. Oh, NT. I'm not sure about this. He'll be able to get away, but Benny is making the right choices here on mid to make this so scary for Alpha Red to hold.
There's a nice Cyclone there. Going to be, oh, I like this, holding the snipe off to the side, looking for this Abyssal Dragon. Not quite there in time to snipe that out, though. KSSA not able to do it either, which means that is 2 Abyssal Dragons going the way of J-Team. That's, you know, if you're looking to up your LSU game, make sure that you're not keeping that red tracer dot on the target and letting all your enemies know exactly where you're sitting.
And that's why, if you thought they were all just being flashy, that's why all these LSU snipers, when they're not in stealth, are doing exactly that.
Now up in the top lane, the collapse is going in here onto Shadow. Ooh, nice CC chain, though, coming in from J-Team. The Nature's Realm on the back with the stun is going to go through. NT is going to try and get a counter kill of his own, but not going to make it happen.
Shadow was so stunned for so long. It was terrifying. He almost got away, though, and he did enough that the wave wasn't able to crash against the tower. And now Alpha Red have an opportunity, a chance to hold this lane.
Oh, but NC might have gone a little bit too far forward there as Benny's going in with the Redwood Rush, able to trade his life for it there. That was a beautiful play there from him. A 2-for-1 trade, and now KSSA might be 3 if he can't get out. But here's First One looking to try and even things up there with the drone drop. But this was a nice little play there going in from J-Team.
Yeah, Benny was the front line, and as always, he understands what he needs to do. Benny and Wins both go in there. They play tank. Neil, the fed-up backline, does the damage, and that's what you're looking for in any ideal team fight for J-Team. I set it up in the early game or pre-game. It has to be who burns down the other's backline first.
We're seeing the war right now, back and forth, 5 kills to 5. I would hesitate to say that this is the most even game that we've seen yet here in the second stage of the group stages.
It is very close. Bot lane tower will fall just as the top lane goes to Alpha Red, meaning that the tower game is still even. Gold-wise, J-Team have more major objectives, but are losing slightly to Alpha Red by a factor of about 1,000.
So not too much all in all. And I'm keeping an eye on Towns throughout this because he's actually missing a few snipes, which I'm kind of surprising to me right now. Because normally these top LSU players, they don't really miss these ever, so keep an eye on this as he ramps up because every single snipe matters. One snipe can be the difference between winning and losing a team fight.
Yeah, I don't think any of the LSU players are at a point to hit 100% snipes. We're getting there, like you said, though, to the point where it's dangerous. Oh my god.
It's also dangerous for first one, apparently, thinking he had that. You know, it's, oh, we'll make it a 2v2 situation, and J-Team's like, no, no, no. Meet the rest of my squad. Yeah.
Yuzon had to introduce him to the family.
Exactly. It's like, have you met my parents? My whole planet is dead.
Well, good wave clear again. That's what they've been really using this flash for. They've been using NT because his super speed means that he can constantly get in into their wave before a response can get there. That's really interesting.
And Taos as well is forced to flicker, forced to use all his escape tools, but it's not nearly enough as the tower is going down. This is J-Team hitting their power spike right now in this mid-late game, heading into towards the late game now. And this is absolutely terrifying. Star in the Liliana has been doing so much damage.
Yeah, and this is what J-Team do, especially with Neil on Lindis. They get to the mid-late game, Neil comes online, and they win the game.
And they just win, oddly enough. As now, once again, KSSA is doing his job as a support, but Yuzon, we've been seeing his ability to reposition here in these fights. We're going to have to continue to watch that. That is another Nature's Realm baited out. Oh, there we go. Yuzon bringing KSSA back on in. The damage is going to be there, and that is going to be the kill. That is going to be the stagger that J-Team needs in order to keep this push alive.
Very well done. Now they're going to be able to scare Shadow a bit as well. He'll get the wave clear. Alpha Red need to just play back. They're not going to be able to hold this second tier tower across the board. They're probably going to lose mid as well. It's all just a wait for a respawn right now, because they cannot win a 5v4.
No, they absolutely cannot. And what they can't do is try and fight that 5v4 and then lose somebody else and continue to stagger out these deaths. However, I think J-Team might look to... Oh, actually, I was going to say, maybe look back towards this Darkslayer. But no, they are going to continue this push. But look at how they're prioritizing. They're taking these towers, but also on Lindis to go back and continue to power farm. They are getting everything on the map at once.
Because Neil's not needed for this, and his time's better spent making sure that he's hyper-farmed. And that's exactly what he's doing, like you say. Neil steps back. He'll focus on completing his build. He's got Omni Arms after his Club Sanctity. I love his Lindis build, by the way.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this one as well. It's just kind of the standard Lindis build that we've been seeing popping out right now. We'll take another look at the builds here in just a second when they pop back up, because I'm curious to take a look at what this Elsu is building into, because obviously a new hero on the Western servers, so...
Yeah, he's got kind of a combination. Normally you do see the Mirror Master, but he's also got the Beast, I believe, to amp up his auto attacks, his base attacks. And that's something that's been a little bit controversial, because many people feel that you should just be prioritizing the snipes and building exclusively towards the snipes. And a couple people have been trying to say that you should build towards prioritizing heavy-hitting autos. And this is kind of splitting the difference, and I don't know if I quite like it, because he's not doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, he's got the Mirror Moss and the Fafnirs, which is a little bit interesting. We'll see how that plays out for him as these fight. Yeah, as these go in. To be fair, they're all big swords, so... And it's
swords
still
pointed
early.
the other direction.
That's true. Shadow goes in with the shock, and Yuzon is there on the flank trying to split this up, and now Shadow is in real deep with the rest of his team, but Taos is in the back showing up these snipes. Benny is going in with the Redwood Rush, the combination with the Metamorphosis, but it is Yuzon peeling in and out, but there we go. NT going in with the massive ultimate as well, but somehow J-Team is able to take him down. That is 3 kills there. J-Team, every single member alive.
That Cyclone should have been game. The fact that they staggered through it is insane. They shut down NC, and now they might have a game of their own.
Absolutely wild. That should have been it. You are absolutely correct. But the split from J-Team was massive. First one's doing a great job trying to split this out, but they're onto the core right now. The Hurricane Wall from KSSA, but it's not going to be enough. The Drake is here, and that is going to be it. That is going to be GG. Game number 1 is going to go over to J-Team.
The top teams in the region continue to win their games. We still get to see one of those protected teams be taken out as Alpha Red continue to threaten to look good. But I hate to say it, they're looking like, I'm checking my notes, perennial second place teams.
Ouch. Ouch.
They came in second in a regional, now they play versus the second best team from the GCS, and they come second. I don't know. I'm just throwing away things. Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine. I want to say though, Alpha Red started that game so strong. I was like, are we about to see the upset right now? I was super into it to start things off. You can see the stat line first one did so much work.
Once again, J-Team is always a little bit hard to watch not difficult to watch, but you think they're further behind than they trick you during the early game. Because they focus so much on scaling their late game power spike, that they always kind of lose like early game. And if they're hanging on early game, but maybe a little bit behind, don't be fooled. Even if they're at a gold deficit, their key carries probably have a gold lead, and once they complete their build, they're going to take the game.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things to keep in mind here as well as we watch these progress. A lot of these teams, they look like they're behind, as you said, but really it's all about identifying when their power spikes exist. And it's something we see in other games, in other MOBAs as well, identifying like what items you need to come online. And actually, there'll be a video coming out at some point in the near future where I actually sit down with iFlex and learn all about how to play side lane marksman.
Is this an ad?
It's a little bit of an ad.
Am I part of an ad right now?
No, well, it's all done by Big Papa Tencent, okay? Look, don't turn to the side. What's happening? Anyway, and he talks about what happens when he gets some of his key early game items. He's like, I don't fight until I get this item. That is truly a thing that a lot of these top pro players, they have, okay, when I can do this, and then I'm here, and then they're constantly keeping track of what they have and what their opponents have. And that often dictates when they can take these fights.
And if you'd like to watch that YouTube video, head on over to the Arena of Valor YouTube channel and use the coupon code INVIRO.
Don't do that yet, but it'll be up soon, I think, actually. So we'll keep an eye out, and maybe there'll be we'll get some other pros up there on that channel too. So keep an eye out. Unfortunately, you also have to watch my gameplay, so that's the one downside of that.
I don't know. Game number 2. I want to talk through it because we can frame it through the reference of game number 1. These replays demonstrate a lot of the weaknesses of Alpha Red. I said they were looking for a rocket ships type solution. They were going to start off with the booster engine of the Cricknack. That went pretty well. What went wrong late game? Well, Towns never came online. His build didn't get scaled quick enough. He was never doing major damage, and when the Cricknack fell off, you saw him try and dive as Superman, I believe, down by the Dragon Pen, and he just got wrecked in the 1v1, and that's when I knew they'd lost the game. Because if you can't win the 1v1 from your early game, and your late game hasn't come online, you don't have a smooth transition. It's going to be GG.
Yeah, really, Elsu needs like 4 items to really just kind of, step up into that danger zone. And we weren't really seeing that here. And seeing this last fight just going in is all about the Superman able to split things up, able to keep people back, and not allow Alpha Red to have a cohesive team fight. And we talked about the split. We talked about how important that was going to be. And I really feel like J-Team did a fantastic job of it in this game here. So keep an eye on it for sure. Wow, the music got really loud for that last segment, I have to say.
That's why I was shouting over it.
Yeah, I got really close to the microphone. I was like, well, this is louder than it was before.
Welcome to ASMR with Paul.
Could you imagine? No?
You're not doing ASMR? I'm upset. I paid for this.
I'm in for the memes,
So-
but that might be a little bit...
I also want to talk about this second map in the reference of what they can change in the draft. Because we did talk about that Elsu as something that went wrong. How do you fix that? What do you bring in place of that Elsu? And I think you could run the Elsu, but the problem is they left him alone during key points. They didn't actually power farm him in a single sideline, and they rotated him between sidelines a lot. They didn't like his initial matchup versus the more mobility gank in the top lane, so they brought him down, and he missed a lot of farm during that time, and he fell pretty badly behind. And once you've fallen behind, you need to, I think, just stick to farming up. Just stick to trying to find enough gold that this individual character you're relying on succeeds in the late game. Alpha Red didn't do that. Instead, they were still trying to take even team fights because they were winning. They were making it close. So I understand why it happened, but it meant that they fell badly and further behind without noticing it.
Yeah, I think that was really the key there, is they still thought they were fairly even, but then the snipes were coming out in fights, and people, still had 3/4 of their HP, and they went, oh no, we might have goofed.
And they'll change it up. It's going to be Raz again targeting Star, which is understandable. And they're going to ban out the Elsu.
Interesting denial here. We'll see if the
I want
Richter
to
is
see.
going to...
I want to see a team take Lindis, because
I would
Neil
agree.
is so good at Lindis. But now we'll go for the Valheim instead. Lindis will be the first cycle for JT. I get why you go for the Valheim. Again, I really want to see a team take Lindis from him.
Well, we do have the Lindis picked up now by Neil once again. No surprise there. J-Team looking incredibly strong on that hero. In the last game, the Ibeneth once again for Benny. The Ibenieth. I'm going to keep making that joke until he stops picking Ibeneth. He is now 4-4.
You're
with
going to make
Ibeneth.
that joke all tournament long. He plays a ton of Ibeneth, and he plays it really well.
He does. Those Redwood rushes were sick. And the fact that he's got the branching out is able to bring people into those key ults, like, oof, so stellar. And we're seeing almost identical drafts. Almost identical drafts here in game number 2.
No Elsu though, so the late game scale needs to come from, I guess, the Valheim. And I'm not a big fan of that. I think they need a very high damage sideliner mage. I'd be looking for something along the lines of a Natalia, and that's why that's getting banned out instantly here. Maybe a Kali would fit.
Did I hear you correctly? You say you want a sideline mage?
No, in the mid.
Okay.
I'm looking for a very high damage sideliner mage. I was looking for something along the lines of a Natalia that got banned. Maybe a Kali would fit.
Yes, the side laner mage. Yes, sorry. I'm kidding. I just definitely 100% misheard you. Yes, I would agree. They need some more damage because Valheim, he does scale well into the late game. But one of the things is, like, he's more about the CC. He's more about the control. Yeah, he hits fairly hard, but he's not the truck that, let's say, I don't know, a Lindis or a Fennec would be.
Well, you can, yeah, and you can get a Valheim hit very, very hard, but most of the time people are more concerned with his capacity to do stun, which is very good, but again, you need punish. So this last side lane needs to be a high damage character, and this mid lane needs to be on the higher damage side. No more flash, no more positioning characters. The mid lane needs to be able to carry the team.
I agree, but I also agree 100%. I really like this Lubu pick. We've seen
Was I right on the Kali? No. They're playing with my heart. I think they win with Kali and lose with Flash.
Definitely... it's tough. Because I would love the Kali here, especially with the Annette. Oh, well. We're doing it again. I would say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but they didn't win. So it is broke.
It is broke, and it got worse because they didn't get the Elsu. So I don't know where their late game damage comes. Alpha Red need to win early game. If they do, first one stays ahead on the Cricknap becomes terrifying, and they can see the Valheim scale really well, then maybe. But to be blunt, we saw Shadow... we saw the Flash fall off towards the late game last game, and I don't think that's going to change.
I would agree. I'm looking at this Max hover right now, and it's blowing my mind. Sorry, got distracted because Max isn't a hero that we've seen picked up a lot in the West as well. But Scud is something that we've seen a decent amount. Or they're just going to play with my heart some more. It's fine.
We end up with the more standard double sideline HP farm for JT. They'll rely on Neil again to do the vast majority of their damage. They'll have a double engage off the back of the Arduin and Bennett, Benny and Wins respectively. Yuzon will act as the more mobile go-between between the back and the front lines. The threat from Alpha Red needs to come from the double dive, NT and first one. If that works, the rest of the team will work as well, but it's also on enabling towers to play this Valheim.
One of the things I'm actually looking towards here is the fact that J-Team's draft is so middling, if that makes sense. It's just a good all-around draft. It's going to be in and out. They don't have like a really clear backline per se, because Lindis is sort of in flanks and she moves up. They also have the front line. We obviously have the Liliana as well, but they go in and out. They just have a lot of heroes that can brawl.
Well, you can do that with this team because they have the advantage of Benny. And if you have Benny and you have him on your banner, you'll win almost every team fight position-wise. So then you're just looking for extra damage. And if you spread the damage evenly amongst your team, you almost guarantee yourself success.
I'm really liking this draft here from them. I'm looking also for KSSA. He had some moments of brilliance in that last game, so I'm looking towards him as well. These Hurricane Walls need to be on point. because they were decent in that last game. There was never a Hurricane Wall where I was like, wow, that won them that fight.
Yeah, I would go far enough to say KSSA's win cuffs were good. His overall net play was bad.
Okay, I mean, I was trying to be nice, but...
Well, the major thing is, a good Annette, just like a good Alice, needs to be able to fit into the team composition and provide enough CC that you don't notice that team doesn't have an extra tanky front line. I noticed they didn't have an extra tanky front line because there were so many times that J-Team was able to successfully run over Shadow and then just bully their backline.
And we talked about that. You specifically pointed this out in the draft, that how Shadow was the only real tanky. I'm like, well, I mean, sometimes we see Malik escape from ridiculous situations. Well, we did not see it in that last game. And already up top, Yuzon. Is Yuzon just like the best side laner ever? Like, this guy, he never loses his lane.
Yeah. Yuzon's a really darn good side laner. I know a lot of people were calling him the best side lane in Chinese Taipei in the initial AWC. And I think that's changed a bit with the addition of AHQ there, and things shift, but he is very, very, very good.
So I was looking at it yesterday, and I'm thinking, oh man, as we do have the drone drop going in, I might hold this thought as we do have First Blood going in from Alpha Red. Once again, starting off at game number 2, same way as game number 1, with a really solid opening, but they have taken quite a bit of poke damage off the back of that, so they need to back up, reset. No outright Abyssal Dragon play for any direction here.
Yeah, Wins just goes in there to poke it so he can get a reset until they have 5 men back up to fight. Really intelligent play from him. Now if he can hold on to the bot lane, all is good. Alpha Red can punish his push for the reset, though. If they're able to get bot lane up against his tower, then he'll need to choose fighting the Abyssal or bot lane.
I love this decision from them. Let's watch the timing on this, as we do actually have another aggressive invade here, as Shadow is going in on top of Neil, but the Cyclone is there, not really going to do a whole lot, but first one is here, and Yuzon is going to be the target, and they are going to get a solid double kill. What a rotation from Shadow and first one.
That was why they rotated in to just poke the dragon, because they suddenly realized that they could catch off J-Team up top, and they do. NC, was useless in that fight, but it doesn't even matter because this core is so good and first one carries them.
KSSA actually misclicked there and auto-attacked the tower and almost cost them that kill. But first one didn't like being in second place after that first game, and he's decided that, look, my Kriknak is god tier, and I'm going to show everybody because he is starting off this game on fire. 2-0-2, 1.9k gold to his name.
And I highlighted the matchup of him versus Neil as something to watch, and I'll stay that way because not only are they two of the best junglers, I will say, in the AIC, but also they play such different styles. Neil is absent during the early game. First one, at least on Kriknak, will really primarily exist in the early game, and if he's not careful, will fall off towards late.
That is definitely something that we do see quite often, in fact. But Wins walked into the wrong neighborhood. And
nice.
5 kills to 0. I mean, this is the opening that they need. And again, I feel like it's I feel like they needed to commit to this, though. The top tower is under threat. First one will be able to secure that all on his own. And now it's Shadow up against the world once again. NT is going to try and go in and get a kill of his own, but Yuzon will just walk away.
But Shadow did get the wave clear, so the top tower holds. 1 kill in exchange for Dragon. That's acceptable.
Absolutely. I feel bad for Shadow in these games because he's off, and again, he's been that sole frontliner there. And while, again, in some of these situations, his team is doing well off the back of it, I feel like he has the most thankless job on Alpha Red.
Interestingly enough, you were talking about Yuzon earlier. He's actually currently leading the team in farm. That's a little bit worrying, again, because you put so much emphasis on Neil for this team to succeed. If Neil falls behind, if Neil's able to get shut down a little bit in this early game, I do think Alpha Red will win.
Well, again, I feel like that's been Alpha Red's top priority, is these additional jungle invades. They didn't play hyper-aggressive in game number 1, but we've seen 2 highly successful 2-3 kill rotations into the jungle to start off this game, and that was the difference maker. That's what they did not have in game number 1. They did not fully utilize first one on this Kriknak. Kriknak's job is to make no one on the enemy team feel safe.
Yeah. And first one's done a really good job of that. Now Towers is the cycling marksman who's going to push through. This is an easy kill.
KSSA, please. That Hurricane Wall was absolutely perfect. Between a rock and a hard place, he had nowhere to go. That was just solid heads-up positioning, but that was also a breakdown of communication for J-Team. They should have called. There were so many missing players.
Well, they didn't really... Because this is the advantage of aggression. Neil couldn't check where everyone was because he didn't want to walk into a 4-man stack.
I mean, they came to him. I'm bringing the party to you.
And as a result, they're now in yet more trouble. Neil again gets cleaned out of one side of his jungle. His gold farm will again suffer. If you compare him head-to-head to the enemy jungle, well, there's about a 2,000 gold difference between them.
Ooh, that is a pretty significant difference right now as we're going into the mid-game. And also, we're going to talk about that Valheim build when we come back, because it is not our traditional Valheim build that we've seen of late. So I would like to discuss that as we get back to that point. And once again, we see First One and the rest of Alpha Red moving in towards this Abyssal Dragon, leaving it alive with 158 HP for way too long.
He'll get taken, though. The final burst of damage comes through, and Taos and KSSA are still operating as a duo. Very well done by Alpha Red to go ahead and, like you were saying, encourage this Kriknak to succeed with the aggression in the early game, and now they're beginning to leverage it into the late game. Because the First One's so far ahead, he will still fall off, but because he's so far ahead, it's going to give them more of a runway to get their high damage characters up in the air and succeeding.
And I think that they've sort of identified that because we do have the Valheim building more of that damage. You realize he needs to be a late game carry. He needs to be that ADC that his squad needs. He can't go fully into just that CC kind of build. So I'm actually a big fan of that right now because NT will do good damage in the late game, but I don't think it'll be enough. And now First One is starting to show where he is weak, and that's the fact that he is still fairly squishy. The shock does not land in time for Shadow as Wins is there, but KSSA is on the flank. Let's watch the Hurricane Wall if they decide to go in. There's the wind cuffs. The follow-up is there. Nice call to get himself out of that situation. Wins. Beautiful positioning.
Wins staying smart, keeping J-Team in the game, trading well onto the dominating First One, making sure it's jungle for jungle in the mid lane. But Neil is the jungle that they could not afford to lose.
Yes, they cannot lose him here, but again, I have to say, going this late game, you have so much potential damage here from J-Team, and the thing I have to talk about is the lack of towers that Alpha Red has taken. 7 kills. They had 5 uncontested kills and only managed to take 1 tower.
That is a worrying sign. J-Team do a really good job of this. Like I said, lose the early game, slowly scale late. They don't have enough damage yet, but they are catching up. If you look at the level and gold difference, it is not as wide as it should be, to be frank.
Yeah, we're only looking at about a 3k gold difference right now, and as you said, that's not where it should be, considering the fact that they're down 2 dragons and 5 kills. J-Team has actually been farming incredibly well, and they have not really gone into that dragon side of the map. If you look towards Alpha Red, they've been really prioritizing the Slayer side, which is still allowing Neil quite a bit of room to play.
A little bit more of a defensive turn towards this last item that the Valheim's built. Towns now has a Frost Cape as well. But, like you said, you rushed War Boots, Fafnir's Talon. That's going to be a ton of damage.
Ooh, a ton of damage right there onto Yuzon, able to get that kill. KSSA is going to be the target as Benny goes in with the branching out in the back. We already have the Essence of the Wind being burned. But nice positioning there from KSSA, using that flanker to secure himself a position. And now Wins. He's in position to get some good split pushing of his own.
But First One solo the Dark Slayer in the meantime.
Oh.
That means that they're going to be able to carry through. I think the focus will be top lane.
I mean, just the fact that, you know, J-Team wasn't aware of that, as was I, and I had full vision of the map. So there you go. That just goes to show how successful the distraction that was that top lane push of Alpha Red.
They don't summon Drake. They're sitting on it. They want to wait until the late game, or as late as they can in this timer, so that they can go ahead and find an instant response with this top wave, I was thinking. But it's only Taos here with him.
Ooh, Yuzon. We talked about how amazing this guy is in the solo lane, but that is not a solo situation. That is a 4v1 as Taos is going in onto Benny. Their nice job with the Hurricane Wall, stunning him out, pushing him back. He is CC'd literally forever. The Nature's Realm is burned through. Beautiful positioning here from KSSA and crew. I asked for better Hurricane Walls. We asked for better net play. Well, you know what? We're getting it.
This entire game rested on Shadow in the mid lane. He just held off the flank. He just held off the split push so that Alpha Red can find the rest of this game.
And now they are going in on the high ground. They are going in under the towers, getting kills left and right, forcing Neil back in onto the core. Shadow with that cleave, the broad, the backhand across the face to put Wins in the ground.
Now, Alpha Red will not slip if they can close the game in the next 5 minutes. If J-Team last longer than that, things get dicey. That's why Alpha Red are taking objectives off the map that could turn. You can see KSSA slowing down the pace of play so that this Abyssal Dragon can be picked up. Once it's picked up, Alpha Red will turn, take a team fight as quick as they can.
They want to utilize this buff, but they do have a bit of some low health bars here, so they're going to reset this, take just an additional second to keep going in this. But I love the fact, again, I said, hey, they need to take some towers. It's like they heard me, because in an instant, they went from having taken 1 tower to taking the Dark Slayer and, I don't know, like 4 towers back to back to back.
And by this point last game, Neil had his Club Sanctity and his Omni Arms complete. He's still on Rank Breaker. This is a very slow build for Neil.
Yeah, he is, again, it's all this jungle pressure. He has not had the top side of his jungle this entire time. I'm like, yeah, he's had some room to play, but not a whole lot, as the push is going in the bottom as well as the mid. Alpha Red, you know, didn't get the most value with this buff right now, but, oh, first one. Jeez.
Watch Yuzon, though. Yuzon's got to be the lead for the team. If Yuzon's able to succeed, he can turn it around, and it is all on him. He's got the most gold on the team right up until this last exchange. He can now duel first one head-to-head because of his Conqueror Lifesteal.
Keep an eye on that in these fights, but it's rarely been a 1v1 in this situation. Great wind cuffs onto Benny, taking half his HP away with one solid cleave as well. As we do have the push on to the bottom. Wins is going to be the target once again. The Ardwin's HP bar not nearly enough to deal with all that damage.
Alpha Red want mid lane. If they can take this tower quickly, they're guaranteed the game win. Benny, Will of the Nature's realm no, just to say no, to decline the call. And if he can do that, and they can continue to stall out, slow down the game, this is still a possible win.
It is, and they're doing a very good job of stalling this out. Now, that was actually 2 masterful tower defenses there, forcing back towers to the point where he needs to full reset, and all the while, Neil is just farming away in multiple lanes, trying to get as much gold to his credit as possible. He does now have his Omni Arms online, can look to build towards his Clavis Sanctity yet, but he's 0-3-2, 7k gold. He's not where he needs to be. He's not even the most farmed on his team.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried for that, but I do think if there is a way to turn this around, it's just time. I think J-Team are the team that can succeed here if this game continues, and I'm actually more worried for Alpha Red.
Yeah, Alpha Red, they need to just get the win here. I mean, they already have the high ground tower, and to me, that's always the thing that's the indicator. They have the high ground. That's huge.
Yeah, and I know that should be game, but I don't think J-Team are out of this by a long shot right now because they are not being able to close the game. This Dark Slayer is going to be the last guaranteed opportunity for Alpha Red, and you can see Yuzon pressing very aggressive so that they can challenge for him.
Taos was able to take an uncontested dragon, though, or an uncontested tower, I should say. So that will help, as they now only have their 2 remaining high ground towers between those big boy super minions marching down the mid lane here. We'll see how Alpha Red can push off the back of the strike. The last time they had that, they took a high ground.
Yeah, if they get the Dark Slayer, that is. But see, Yuzon still playing it really aggressive. He can win this 1v1, not this 1v4, though.
And once again, we are seeing that going in, and now it is Neil against the world, as he is going to be absolutely destroyed, staggering the deaths. That was an outright throw from J-Team.
Well, it was the only thing they could have done.
They could have done it as a team.
Like you said, it wasn't enough.
They could have done it as a squad. You talked about Yuzon going in there, trying to keep this, kill this wave, and not quite able to do so. Star needs to try and go in and kill this minion, try and get some kills of his own. And first one's actually going to fall right here, but through all of it, the core is going to fall, and that is going to be GG if Tau can stay alive. Yes, it is. We're going to see a game number 3.
Very good play from Alpha Red. I said the only way this draft works is if you win the early game dominantly. You get 5 kills or so in the early game. They got 7. Once they had 7 kills in the early game, they scaled so well that it was impossible for J-Team to get back on top. We saw them starting to. Towards the hyper late game, we started to see them beginning to be able to win 1v1s, maybe scale back into it. And it was Yuzon getting shut down 1v5 that finally ended the game.
I think there were 2 key things that happened in that series. The first, as you said, was the fact that Yuzon They identified the fact that he was winning the 1v1. So let's just stop making it a 1v1. They brought multiple bodies to the table, they brought multiple bodies to the lane, and they just shut him down. I was hoping they were going to show us the percentages here, but that's just fine. The other thing was Neil. You asked for Neil to step up, while he did in game number 1, to be that power farm carry that we witnessed. And, Alpha Red, they realized too where the dominance was. We actually saw 43% of the team's damage going over to Star on that Liliana. That is a monstrous number, but it's not even necessarily that his play was so exceptionally good. It was, but it was also the fact that nobody else on his team was able to step up. Arduin had more damage than Neil.
Well, it was very hard to win any of the lanes because of how well they were rotating. The reason Star was the only one to win his lane was because it was the only lane they weren't paying attention to. They didn't ever need to really push through the mid lane or put a whole bunch of emphasis on the mid lane because Alpha Red were focused on getting major objectives and shutting down jungle. That's why Yuzon suffered so much in early, because they wanted to be able to get access to the jungle to deny Neil farm. They identified it as a win condition and they punished him.
Oh yeah, you saw it. You saw it happen multiple times. Those jungle invades that not only found them taking every single monster in the jungle, but also multiple kills every single time. We saw double and triple kill the 2 early game invades that came through. That's how we got those early 5 kills. And you know what? I think they need to do exactly what you're doing right now. They need to have a sip of tea. They need to reset a little bit if you are J-Team and go, okay, we need to identify. We thought we had the answers there from game number 1, but clearly no. I said if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but it was broke, so they proved me wrong. They absolutely knew what they were doing with that draft.
Well, they fixed it in-game, really. And it was the Krignak being able to succeed, and it was a lot more team emphasis on first one. Game number 1, first one, if you watched, he was playing bodyguard to the Elsu a lot. I believe we even mentioned about it being good strategy. But the problem was it relies on the kind of power transition to the Elsu. They never tried to transition power that game. They just tried to keep first one in the game as long as possible and rely on the fact that him getting 9 kills would mean everyone else on their team had opportunities to do well as well. And it worked out.
It definitely did work out. So, oh man, this game number 3 is going to be so very interesting. It's the first game number 3 that we've actually seen so far here. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that as we see some of these replays here. Walk us through what we're seeing in these fights.
Well, it was a lot of Star failing. Watch every single fight here. Star either gets a kill or leaves, because he was the only high mobility character on the team. And that was kind of a problem. Whenever this big burst of damage came out from Alpha Red in an incredibly coordinated manner like here, there was no time or accurate response. Benny could Redwood Rush, but that's pretty slow. The only character with a dash on the team is Star. So every time the fight happens, he fails, the rest of the team can't, the fight's over.
And we saw, a couple amazing Hurricane walls in those fights. That's what I asked for. I said, KSSA, you went so far as to call his play bad in game number 1. Do you think he redeemed himself in game number 2?
Yeah, it was good in that play. And it was a lot. I was actually noticing far fewer of his stellar win cuffs. Game 1, he was landing a ton of good win cuffs that collected people in groups. Game number 2, he was playing much more as a front liner. And that's kind of what I said when I identified what went wrong with his game 1 play. He played game 1 and wasn't able to compensate for the lack of HP that his character brings. There's a trade-off, a few extra stun tools in exchange for having a lower actual HP. In game number 1, he wasn't able to compensate for that because he wasn't playing the front line. Game number 2, he absolutely did.
Yeah, he found that balance going into game number 2. I think they're taking a short break, allowing the players to kind of reset going into game number 3 here. So, I can't wait. So, I think we're going to see some very different drafts here in game number 3, because I think both teams have identified that, look, we know what works, we know what is going to be broken, but I think that J-Team, there's no way they are going to allow a lot of this core through. What do you think is the biggest? Is it first one's Krignak? Is it the Valheim? Is it, where is the key component to this draft from Alpha?
If I'm not mistaken, they get to choose sides. If I'm then, I flip. They've been really enjoying being second pick so that they can get Neil Lindis, and maybe they feel that's important enough. But if they want to have an extra opportunity for denial, I'd actually say you ban out the Cricknack and force your opponents to ban the OPs. Then you go ahead and take Lindis on first pick, maybe let them get an Elsu.
I actually don't mind that pickup there at all because Elsu, again, he needs to get in that late game. But again, teams are learning how to play against him, especially in regions where they've had access to the player for longer. They know how to contend with him. So I actually don't mind that decision too much here. I think letting through more of these OPs would be better and taking a chance to deny a few more of these very specific power picks for these players.
Well, the other thing is, you have a lot of, I feel, an opportunity for J-Team to punish the fact that there are so many target bans being enforced against them. We have never seen that Raz let through. They literally, every single team that's played J-Team has felt it more important than banning a Richter to ban Stars Raz. Exploit that. Make them choose between banning a Richter and banning Stars Raz. Because if you can make them make that choice, then that messes up their ideal draft.
That is such a statement piece too. Like that is really just like, wow, his hero is so good that we'd rather give you Richter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, draft number 3 is about to get underway. As we get on into it here, Alpha Red up against a J-Team. Already pulling out some amazing games here. We're seeing our first game number 3 here of the second stage group stage. I've got to find a better way to say that.
Stage 2
of the group stages.
Of the group stage.
See, no, we need a better option.
J-Team did do what I said. They flip sides. They ban out Valheim and Cricknack. This means the owners to ban the OPs goes against them. And that means they get Ignis on first pick. That's really interesting. Alpha Red.
Could conceivably get Richter and...
I dare you, Richter Lindis. I dare you.
Yes, of course. Absolutely take
that. That is so obvious for Alpha Red. If they take the Lindis away and they get a Richter, I think they've won this exchange. But they may decide not to do that because first one was so good on that Cricknack. They might want to keep him on a melee. And this is what I was talking about. Even if J-Team lose the Lindis here, they have forced Alpha Red to draft it. So this should be Richter Lindis. Thank you.
And it is, yes.
Now J-Team need to look for the dive. This needs to kind of be a little bit of a flip. Get a Malik, get a little bit more pressure into the enemy backline because they're going to be trying to set up the Lindis, and you've won this draft.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that, I mean, oh man. Ooh, Violet though.
Nope, I like it.
I like this Violet pickup here. Yeah.
Counter, you play him in the backline, get a Malik to play the front line. And I would put a lot of emphasis on that Malik because it's going to get banned out if you get to the second banning phase. And during the second banning phase, take away their flash because the flash is an obvious counter. And maybe take away their Cricknack as well because they could play this Lindis sideline. Oh, the Cricknack's already gone. Great. Fantastic. Good work.
No, I think this was 100% the play. Beneth as well for Benny. I mean, he's if it ain't broke again. Oh man, this is a good response. I mean, we know how strong this Ignis can be, and taking away one of the best pairings of it. I mean, they obviously weren't going to pick up the Inet because they already had the Ibeneth, but I actually don't know how you feel about. Obviously, KSSA's Inet has been fantastic, but with the Richter that's going to be an interesting dynamic.
I think Inet can work with anything so long as the player is successful. There's that flash ban I was calling for. Now the Malik side lane is an obvious pick for J-Team. It can be taken away by Alpha Red, either in this next ban cycle or in the first pick cycle. I would prefer them to deal with the sideline threats in the ban phase. And I think J-Team should be prioritizing the Malik.
I would agree here. I feel like the Malik of Shadow has been solid considering he's been in rough situations.
Yeah, so it's a double threat. They take it away from Shadow, who is literally only playing Malik, and they now have the opportunity, should they pick it, to have an extra engage tool. And they're doing a really smart thing. They're focusing out a double mage ban in response, so Alpha Red should have to first pick this Malik.
I
But
love.
if they feel a little bit antsy, they'll go for mage first.
This is hilarious because there's the hyper focus. It's like, let's take away NT's mages, and Alfred's like, let's take away Yuzon side laners. Like, they've identified who some of these key players are who are still on the board, and they want to make sure that they don't have one of their top S tier picks.
Ooh. They're giving Yuzon Tulin? No, okay.
No, it's mid
Can't
Tulin.
believe it.
Yeah, mid. They still need a mid. Oh wait, Ignis. What am I saying? Wait, what's going on?
They could have given Yuzon Tulin. He does play it very, very well.
I mean, he's going to get his Lubu, which is still also, I mean, obviously started the game. Wait, we also,
So this is their double side lane draft. And I like the Lubu. I would, again, really like a Malik on this team for the reasons I highlighted. But they still get a little bit of extra engage from the Lubu. And the Marja will give them a little bit of backline threat they perhaps feel they're missing. This should be the Malik I've been talking up all draft long because Shadow has played literally nothing else. Maybe he's shifting over to the Richter, though, and they'll pick up an extra... They could go jungle here. They could shift Shadow over to the Richter, put side lane Lindis, and grab a Kriknak here, and that wouldn't be crazy, but it would be unexpected.
I predicted that game number 3's drafts would be highly different from the first two, and we definitely are seeing that here. But I'm surprised at how lightweight these compositions are. We only have one pseudo tank in the entire game, and that is the Ibeneth. And
So they are doing what I said. I apologize for interrupting you. I just want to talk rampant over this.
Zill. Talk about the Zill.
So, yeah. So this is... I misspoke earlier. I should have said they pick up a melee assassin for the jungle. The Kriknak's been banned. That specifically isn't available. But they do what I was saying. They're going to put first one over on the Zill in jungle, shift NT over to the mid lane, and then bring that Richter down to Shadow, and put Taos in the side lane on the Lindis. That might seem crazy to Western viewers, but it is fairly standard. All the component parts are fairly standard for Thai and Chinese Taipei play. So, the big advantage to the Zill is if he's able to get out ahead, he's actually a late-game assassin, which almost never happens. There are very few late-game assassins, but if the Zill can get out ahead, he does exactly that. The big downside is he's got a high investment cost before he gets there. So, early game is going to be actually Alpha Red's weak point here. If they survive it, if they get to late game, and they still maintain control of their jungle, I think they'll do very well.
So I have a question now, and is that first one, does he only play melee assassins in the jungle?
No, he plays some Lindis. And I know he's a big fan of Violet. We saw him play Violet during the finals, actually.
Apparently Slims as well, based on some of his team play or some of his league play. So it's interesting to look at here, but we'll see, because you know they had the opportunity to run the Lindis in the jungle, but instead they opted to go for that Zill as well. So we'll see.
You're getting a full taste of the RPL. Welcome, Western viewers. This is how the more advanced regions play the game. Star on the Ignis is the big question. Did JC win with that pick? There are some analysts who would say yes, who would say Ignis is that OP. I think there is an opportunity for good response from Alfred, particularly with the jungle Zill. If he can win shift and tornado, he will one-shot Star almost every time. So it is all about the dive potential onto Star.
I actually love that adjustment too at the end there, identifying the look. We need to. You mentioned it's literally a 2-ability combo. We need to kill Ignis. We need a hero that can absolutely kill us. Because look at the damage already going through. The rate of fire, the fire crash, everything going through, and Star is just able to do so much. He had 43% of his team's damage in that last game. That is too much damage.
Shadow on the Richter is also a key component of this gameplay. If he's able to succeed on the Richter, Yuzon loses in lane, that might very well be game. Because again, it's all about enabling first one. If you win the side lanes, your jungle will not be threatened, and that first one will be exceptionally strong come late game.
We have to talk about the late game here, because we do have the Violet from Neil. Neil, who was the star in game number 1 and who got shut down in game number 2. we have to talk about how much potential this Violet has to utterly dominate that late game. We've seen what happens when you get a Violet 6 stack. They can just have health you with every single tactical fire.
Yeah, and he's in an interesting match because late game Lindis from the side lane is the peak. Side lane Lindis peaks late game, but Lindis peaks mid game. So there is definitely a disadvantage to running the Lindis in the side lane. If they can punish that, if they can bully Towers in lane, that's going to be a strong asset for the team.
Well, so far they're doing exactly that. The Tornado's going in the Ghost Walk to dodge out a lot of that from Wins, who is doing so much initial damage to Taos, who was forced back early in that fight and allowed the First Blood and the Abyssal Dragon to go over towards J-Team. Again, a situation where, you know, maybe they should... I know, both teams have the potential for these early game fights, and we saw it they're just executed better for J-Team.
First one dying right there is actually astonishingly bad for Alpha Red. That may very well have just cost them the game. If he falls behind, that is GG. If he is ever a lower level than the enemy team, that is the game.
Well, right now, he's on par with everybody except for Neil, who has been farming exceptionally well through all this. The difference in this game number 3 is the pressure. By this time, in game number 1, we'd already had 3 kills from Alpha Red after 2 successful or 1.5 successful jungle invades, and so far they have not been able to make that happen because they identified we need to focus on our farming instead. And it seems to be in this series, the team that is forced to play more passive is the team that loses.
More importantly, this is a shift in the draft from Alpha Red. Because they now have a pretty weak early game, they needed to shift how they were playing, and I think they have appropriately. I don't think them having a somewhat weak early game should be cause for anxiety. I think this becomes a problem if J-Team are able to repeatedly punish their jungle.
Oh, Star.
Oh, that was so smart. Star. Reset his speed boost off of that Seagull so that he could get away from the Riki shot. That is incredibly smart.
That allows him to stay in lane and supplement this push, because it wouldn't have killed him, but it almost would have and done enough damage to force him back to base, which he's doing anyway for mana. But still,
first one was flanking. That might have killed him, because first one would have gone on if the Riki shot had landed.
What absolutely masterful play, and now Yuzon is here in a 1v2 situation. He does have the Conqueror, and he actually thinks maybe he can make this happen. No, flickers over the wall, baits that perfectly. Yuzon is a god.
Yuzon's very, very good. Baits out the play, flickers over the wall, and J-Team now know where 2 players are. They'll send Benny up to bully first one off of that Spirit Sentinel. He's a bit late, but first one's very low.
Put him into the wall, the Tornado with the iframe, but it's not nearly enough. Benny just goes in, happy to trade his life for this. As Shadow was able to get out.
If he dies, it literally doesn't matter, but
and he's not even going to die.
Yeah.
He literally can't even
rush over the wall. And first one is in trouble. Like you said, he's still behind the enemy jungle, which is a big bad sign. But he's also, now for the first time, going to be caught up with by J-Team.
Oh no, and now we are seeing the solid invade. The J-Team is realizing, look, we have the power advantage. We know that we can take these fights. And I love the fact that they instantly identify that and then convert it into jungle pressure and an objective, and likely towers to the back of this too. They need to not misplay this though, and Leash the Dragon? That was awkward. The dragon should not have done that. It was very strange.
I don't know. Dragon's got a mind of its own sometimes.
It does.
J-Team will adapt to this knowledge. Find some pressure in the bot lane, find some pressure on mid, take the dragon in time. That's what they're doing, and Star on the Ignis is proving why this character's been an insta-ban almost every game so far.
I think this is the second Ignis that we've seen so far in the last 2 days. Either way.
In the last 2 days.
In the last 2 days, I should specify. See, my world, as much as I watched all the first stage of the group stage, my world only exists yesterday. So, I was born and I am an Arena of Valor caster yesterday. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm watching Arena of Valor. I'm great.
Well, the Ignis is OP because of the stuns and the damage and the AoE nature of the damage. No other character can do that much burst onto literally your entire team. So Alpha Reds, during these late game team fights, are going to have to be played kind of spread out and still try and coordinate through that, which is really difficult.
I need to watch and see how Benny continues to play here as well, because his ability to force Alpha Red out of position is huge, especially as you mentioned, when you can do that damage from Ignis onto an entire squad. If you can force them back and into precarious situations, it allows Star to do even more damage, as we now see the 4-man collapse up here into the top.
Goodness.
Oh no, the Holy Embers are there as well. The Hurricane Wall to split the fight. NT is actually going in, take them anyway, but Yuzon has split this, and they do secure the kill, if not the tower.
NT did brilliantly there. Dived in, clears wave. He might be in trouble in the long run, though, because JT cut the wave and pressure bot lane.
That was a really nice pick up there, the 2v1 situation, picking up the kill onto wins. A small little reprieve here from Alpha Red as they're going to be able to get this tower of their own. That was the trade they needed to start to get back into this game.
Benny, though, doing a lot of damage, will scare them back. JT get the trade. Like he said, Alpha Red staying in it matters because they're playing to the late game. They've kind of flip-flopped roles with J-Team. J-Team now have a stronger mid-game, and it will be Alpha Red in the late game that excel. They need to get first one there, though. There have been multiple times where I've worried he'll fall behind. Right now, he's on par with the most, with the strongest of J-Team's members, noticeably 2 levels behind Neil. That's not really good enough, but it's also not over.
It is not over, absolutely. I mean, we've seen both of these teams trade blows. We know the strength of these squads. 2 of the best in the world going head-to-head right now as the next Abyssal Dragon spawns. It's not that enraged Abyssal Dragon yet, but it is still going to be a point of contention here, and J-Team knows it as they are already pushing in here onto this Dragon side. Look at the instant shift in focus, and in the mid, Shadow is just gone. What were you thinking?
He was trying to clear a wave, and there were 4 players there. This tower will fall.
I love it. Opening up the map, rotating down, simultaneously taking 2 towers here as Wins is on the flank. KSSA is in a lot of trouble. He's going to have to burn the Hurricane. Oh, the Seed Stun!
He doesn't get the opportunity. Shut down, and now Taos, I don't think you can hold this wave. He'll try. He spends the entrapments, but Wins specifically clears them. He still gets wave. Oh no, it's not enough. 1 minion, and Neil, 2 shots, the towers.
Yeah, Neil is starting to reach his mid-game critical mass right here. We talk about the late-game potential of Violet, but when we're heading into that late game now, past this 10-minute mark, Neil is going to hit like a truck. So keep an eye on that already, and I love this build too. He's just going standard, tried and true, nothing too fancy.
The Ignis actually building Frosties here for the extra slow, kind of going more on the utility side of things for the advantage it will grant his team. They're still thinking of Neil as the key damage source, and I agree.
And Benny, though, maybe overstaying a little bit right there, wanting to get fancy, doing a whole 1v4 situation. Pull the Embers from Star, almost just completely turning that fight around. That was literally just Benny feeling way too cocky, walking solo into the enemy jungle and almost getting away with it. If it wasn't for those meddling
kids. But then
kids.
Star walked up into a 1v4, and they all ran away.
I mean, to be fair, it's because he almost killed all of them, TJ.
It's terrifying. Ignis, man. They need to have punish for him. That's why it's so important that first one comes online. Because if first one comes online, then they have dive punish, and that's why they need this Abyssal Dragon.
I have to say, though, that Benny actually, I kind of want to say throwing there, had huge repercussions because this is going to allow Alpha Red to get this Enraged Abyssal Dragon basically on cooldown as it spawns. That was huge. Not having the full members and Yuzon giving up his life for him on the back of this, that had massive repercussions because now J-Team cannot continue to keep up this pressure, which they need, and allows Alpha Red to scale a little bit easier into this late game.
Yeah, Gold Game is kind of closed up a bit. Alpha Red, like you said, coming back into this late game. And as I said, the late game is where they have the potential to upset this series. You can look at the build coming through now for first one. He's got his Loki's Curse probably full stacked at this point. He's got the Dark Blessing, and he's got the Apocalypse, which will mean basically he has the burst damage necessary to play this Zill. If he can find Star isolated, he'll probably get the kill.
We'll keep an eye on that. Zill, his whole mission in life is to kill the man with the beard.
I don't think it's because he has a beard.
I'm pretty sure that's the only reason. Let's be honest.
Sure.
Sure. I mean, look, he's on clean shaven, not the target. Look, transitive properties, man.
If he can kill the Violet, that's pretty important as well. I'm not going to comment on the state of Violet's facial hair, but if you can shut down the Violet, if the Zill gets those two key backliners, the fight will always go to Alpha Red, and we've now hit the point in the game where Alpha Red can afford to do that, which is interesting, because frankly, J-Team should have won before this point.
They probably should have, but getting that key Enraged Missile Dragon has meant the J-Team could do nothing. They've played entirely passive, but Alpha Red also didn't push their advantage. They let the Zill farm. All this Enraged Missile Dragon buff did was give them space, gave them the ability to take a breath, reset a little bit here, and again, farm and scale up those late game monsters.
Benny may push forward here. Facing against Cass's A and C. He's made this mistake once before. Reyes Blessing in the meantime, finishing the build here for first one. Like I said, he's getting to the point where he will do, well, you just saw that minion. He will do a ton of damage should he get onto the key backliners. I don't want to harp on it, but the fights right now devolve down to do J-Team manage to keep those backlines alive to win it out the fight, or do Alpha Red have the pressure and the dive necessary to shut them down?
Speaking of dive, I was watching the mini-map there, and I watched Yuzon go on. I'm like, okay, Yuzon's going to trade his life for this Darkslayer. That's great. But no, he killed Taos, and his team gets the Darkslayer for his life. That trade was 200% worth it.
Yuzon makes silly sacrificial plays be an extra benefit to the team. And this might be J-Team's last hurrah when they're entirely in control of the game. If they can find more than just a tower here, if they can maybe break the high ground, the game's theirs. If Alpha Red manage to stop out this Drake push, then I think, in turn, the game is theirs.
So I'm going to keep an eye on for sure. As we, again, great. You talked about this, DJ. You called it, and we're literally just seeing everything change after that one failed jungle engage from J-Team. They have been on the back step ever since Benny decided he wanted to walk in 1v4.
I don't want to say I'm right, but I am. So I'm going to say that. Yes. But you can see, because we're playing a late game, Paul, it is J-Team have options, right? As much as we're talking about first one's late game burst damage, he is one of the few assassins that scales well in late game, but the Zill still won't do well against the tanks. Benny can shut him down, wins a little bit more of a tanky build, but he can still win a fight. So if they can get the right engages, first one's not that scary.
Well, he's going to have to be... Well, I mean, I feel like he's still going to be fairly scary here, especially because Star is putting himself so far forward, but Shadow's actually on the flank. We haven't talked about this Richter. We've been quiet on him all game long, and Neil... He missed. He just straight up missed. Neil happened to tactical fire at exactly the right moment, and now Shadow is in full retreat. He's actually going to be able to get out of there. I think that was literally an entire coincidence, as Yuzon is once again going in onto Taos. Able to get his... This is literally like 1v3ing right now. Yuzon is an absolute beast.
That's what an OP Lubu can do. This is going to be a high ground falling at least in one lane.
KSA as well is going to be under threat here, forced to burn the Hurricane Wall just for space as the Drake is pushing in, buffing the minion wave. They're going to be here. That is going to be a second high ground tower, and they're looking towards a third.
That should be J-Team's game to lose now, provided they don't lose a massive, devastating team fight and a major objective. There's very little way, because they did such a good job in the early game. Alpha Reds basically need to win 2 or 3 team fights in order to fight this back.
This is going to be a tall order for them. I mean, Alpha Red, they were looking in such good position. Now they're behind by 7k gold. Such a weird situation here. It's, I mean, they never were able, they were pulling this lead back. They were looking for it. But first one, he's just not able to get these key kills. Finding Yuzon and not Star, the way they're positioning, protecting Star through all of this, they've identified him as their absolute key damage dealer, and they have kept him safe all game long.
And Benny again, so good at setting up for Star. Watch that Holy Embers.
Goes in, takes half the team's HP to boot, and now all of Alpha Red is in full retreat. And Violet's not even there. She's taking the Abyssal Dragon during all of this.
And that is incredibly smart, because Nail and Yuzon pick up the Abyssal. The obvious turning point for Alpha Red is off the board.
That was the comeback mechanic they absolutely needed. They're looking towards the 10k gold deficit. They only have 1 remaining high ground tower to their credit. Level 15, looking towards 6 stacks. Violet is already there, 2-0 and 2, has the full build online. But wow, once again, Benny is deciding that he just wants to live in the enemy jungle. He is a tree after all.
Tao's like stopped attacking him because he wasn't doing any damage, and he figured it just wasn't worth the time.
It's like, well, I could just try and just lifesteal. I don't know, it's fine. It's fine. As they now push in onto this last remaining bastion of hope for Alpha Red. One more auto, and that tower's going down. The Marja is hitting like a freight train, but the Tornado is going in, trying to find Star in the back. But a beautiful job from Benny. There's always one tanky player, whether it be Yuzon or Benny, standing next to Star at all times.
He's brought in the wave. Yuzon's just brought in the wave this whole time. He's got a super minion wave in mid. This could be game.
This could be it, as the first kill is going in now onto Shadow here. That is exactly what they needed. Neil is still alive. The core is under threat, pushing in here, and that is going to be J-Team doing it. That is going to be the ace, and as well, GG. They take the series 2-1.
Nicely done. A clean game from J-Team to re-establish their dominance. Alpha Red get a game, and that may matter because the other team in this group is ALG. Because of that game being taken, Alpha Red now need to do incredibly, or ALG now need to do, I believe, a 2-0 in order to keep their hopes alive.
That's going to be difficult, not going to lie. But you know what, I believe that maybe ALG can find it within to pull this out right now. But all in all, what a fantastic series. The closest one we have seen here in Stage 2. And both of these squads should be proud of that performance. There was, again, a few moments. There was one turning point in that entire game. It had to be that stagger death in gate. I was like, oh man, things are going to turn around here. But they were able to bring it back. And I want to say, just really solid play there from J-Team.
Yeah, J-Team stepping up. And it time and time again is from Neil and Star. That's the duo. However, we saw a re-emergence of a player I haven't gotten to talk about since the AWC. That was Yuzon, back on the field this entire set. He played his trademark Lubu and excelled at it. That's something I've been looking for a while, because he's a really good Lubu player, and he's a really good side laner. And it's just been a while since that's really stood out.
Yeah, I mean, I was instantly watching his play in that first set there, and really just able to dominate that. And Star, 27.7% of his team's damage, 29% actually picked up by wins on that Marja though. So that was kind of interesting, because it did come back to the draft. I felt like because we didn't see any dive picked up for Alpha Red in that last game, there was almost nothing they could do to get to the Ignis, because sure, you have a Zell, but Benny's just so good, the positioning's so good, you need a flash to counter that comp. Yeah, no, I was interesting there, and the Liliana felt fine, I guess, but just wasn't ever exceptional in any direction. So the flash, though, those tornadoes were the breath of life in a lot of those team fights. There was interesting adaptation as we got into that last draft too. Both teams attempted to mind game, and in the end, J-Team just mind gamed a little bit better.
They mind gamed the mind game, Paul.
They did. No, they actually did, because they countered the cat. Like they literally played it out, and like because all the eggs went into that Zill basket.
I'd like to say that I called that mind game pre-game.
You did.
So I mind gamed the mind game of the mind game.
Well, like they clearly need you drafting for them, because you predicted all of this.
Alpha Reds do go down in a 2-1 set, our first of the AIC, actually, interestingly enough. Or our first of AIC Stage 2. We did have one during AIC Stage 1 as well. So that's the one we get. Everything's going to be 2-0 from here on. That's how that works.
What, you don't believe in Flash Wolves?
Today. Actually, yeah, the rest of these sets will be high.
Dude,
I won't predict anything yet.
Yeah, okay. We're gonna listen to we're gonna watch these replays back, and then we're gonna have some chats. Because seriously,
Hey, Yuzon, he did pretty well.
Yeah.
I want to highlight that here as we look at the replays. Wins was a major point for J-Team. We didn't really touch on it all. But oh my god, that flicker play just there. How did I see that live? That was sick.
That was, because because it wasn't on camera, to be fair. But still, this was the play though. This was the play I was like, J-Team's literally going to throw the game off of this. And they were able to recover. They were able to recover. Everybody overcommits to try and keep Benny alive, and then they stagger deaths, and then Alpha Red takes Dragon, but it just wasn't enough because Star's a beast.
Mm-hmm. And Yuzon winning this 1v1 against Towers so many times in a row Sure, he gets shut down in that specific play, but remember, that was all supposed to just be bait. He didn't actually need to get the kill. He just needed to threaten the tower so that the Dark Slayer could be taken. But the fact that Yuzon's getting kills in 1v2, 1v3 situations like that is always absurd.
The timing on that tactical fire from Neil, I'm still not convinced he's not a Jedi, because that was literally like precognition. That was wild.
I see through the ways of JT.
Oh wow, it's just incredible play there from them. What a series, back and forth. But guys, we're not done yet. How wild is that?
We're not.
Dude,
AHQ Flash Wolves OMG Overclockers, both
Oh my.
incredible sets full.
I'm so very excited. We have 2 more amazing games. AHQ versus Flash Wolves is coming up next, and after that, it is, oh my god, the Chinese Phenoms going up against Overclockers. That's actually, I think, going to be a very interesting game because OMG have been a question mark on many people's minds. So we're definitely going to keep an eye on that match. So let's, I guess, briefly talk about this next one though, which is AHQ versus Flash Wolves. This next game is going to be interesting. So we'll set it up a little bit before we head to our break.
Yeah, AHQ, of course, are the Korean champions. They're the team you'd expect to win this entire tournament. Flash Wolves are going to be their first, I think, real wake-up call, their first real challenge, if that makes sense. Because Flash Wolves did come out of the group stage 1 on top. They beat out Swing Phantom. They looked really good in that group. So if AHQ are going to be threatened in this group stage, it will be versus Flash Wolves.
Yeah, Flash Wolves, of course, such a solid roster in their own right. I mean, again, well, but here's the thing, though, too, is that this isn't quite the same roster that we saw before here. So I believe there are some newer members that have been added onto this. So this is going to be interesting. I'm actually super pumped to see how this plays out. And I'm going to see how long we're going to have for this break before we head into it. So we can give some little bit of context here, as they are looping the same graphic over and over again on the main stream. And it keeps freezing at the same point, so I'm a little bit confused, but we're going to make it work
Mine
right
broke,
now.
so I think we should just throw to a break.
I was going to try and play it off, but we'll just
All right, I was just going to tell you, because I'm looking at a loading screen.
Yeah, so am I. So we're just going to head over to a break, and we'll be right back. Take it easy.